And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the DoDcast Postgame Show. I'm your host, District on Deck co-editor Ricky Keeler, and what a wild night at Nats Park as the Nationals made it a little closer than it should have been, but they hang on to win 11-10 over the Philadelphia Phillies. The magic number to clinch the NL East is down to 3 games. It's probably going to stay at 3 games, so don't expect a clinching performance tomorrow, but the Nats have now won 5 in a row and starting to get hot at the plate. They got decent pitching from Max Scherzer tonight as he made his return to the mound. And Michael Taylor, and you see the title if you're here on the YouTube page, 4 for 5, inside the park grand slam. You rarely ever see those. I mean, that's what makes it so fun. When you watch a baseball game, you never know what's going to happen. You get an inside the park grand slam thanks to Odubel Herrera. So the Nats get the win. They have to go use Sean Doolittle again. We'll get into why that's crazy in a little bit. And we'll get into a wild night at the park. Trea Turner, a nice game. Ryan Zimmerman, a couple of RBIs, and really just a good team effort by the Nats all around. So there's a lot of ways you can talk with us during the show. We do appreciate every bit of conversation we get. You can follow along in the chat here on the YouTube page, or you can tweet me on Twitter at District on Deck or at Riginator555. So let's dive into the totals, and then we'll get into some specifics. Nationals get 11 runs, 16 hits, no errors. I think it's the 21st time this year the Nats have scored 10 or more in a game. It's just fun to watch this offense when they're this good. Phillies get 10 runs, 14 hits, 2 errors, and they could have had a lot more than 2 errors. It felt like everybody in the Phillies infield was making mistakes today. I mean, Maikel Franco could have had 2 errors on 1 play earlier in the game, and I think the score is being nice there. Max Scherzer gets the win. He goes to 14-5. He goes 6 innings, gives up 4 runs, 6 hits, strikes out 7, walks 3, but he goes to 14-5. Jake Thompson gets the loss for Philadelphia. 5 innings, 5 runs, 7 hits, 2 walks, didn't strike out a single batter. So good job by the Nats. They got a run and a hit in 4 of the 5 innings. And Sean Doolittle gets save number 20, strikes out the side in the 9th. He's still perfect in saves, and I didn't think like about a half hour to an hour ago this game was going to be needing a save chance. But it is. And Doolittle's has been insane how good he's been. Kinsler's been really good. I can't say much else the rest of the bullpen tonight. And as you get down the stretch these last couple weeks, you're going to need those other guys to step up because you're not using Sean Doolittle every day. You're not going to use Brandon Kinsler every day. You're not going to use Ryan Madsen every day. These guys are going to have to get outs because the games mean something a month from now. I get it's great the magic number's down. That's awesome. I'd rather have Sean Doolittle rested and ready to go in October, and hopefully Dusty gets that memo as well. A lot going on tonight. Of course, everybody talking about Sean Kelly here in the chat room, and we'll get to him later on. Especially, I don't think he's going to make the postseason roster. I guess we'll just lead him with that. We'll get all the negative out of the way, and then we'll talk about some positives. Sean Kelly, rough night in the 9th inning, gives up a couple of hits, and then Maikel Franco, a 3-run homer, which is, I think everybody on Twitter and Facebook and predicted it, and especially I'm sure you guys in the chat room predicted it. It's been a constant struggle for Kelly this year. The home runs have been a big story, and again, there's no room for him on the playoff roster. I'm going to give Albert Perez a pass tonight. He did give up the 3-run homer to Hoskins, who's starting to watch him these last couple days, and you can see why he's been this good for the Phillies this year. Great plate discipline, too. I think he had like 11 pitch at bat with Scherzer at one point. But Perez in the second half, I put it out on Twitter. Maybe you could blame me for it because I did put this out on Twitter during the game. He had a 154 batting average against in the second half. Didn't give up a run in the month of August. So I'm going to give Perez a pass. He's usually really good. At least he's been surprisingly good this year. So I think he gets a pass. Matt Albers got out of that 7th inning, but it wasn't great. And look, these are nights you need Sammy Solis. These are nights you need Eddie Romero. There are nights you need Joe Blanton, Matt Grace in a given scenario. This is why you have expanded bullpen to use other guys. And it seems like Dusty goes to the same guys, but Brandon Kinsler, really good in the 8th, a 1-2-3 inning on just 12 pitches. He's been really good for this team this year. Looking at let's go to some positives. Yes, Seth, I know the Patriots did lose last night, but that's why they play 16 games. There's 15 more to go. Let's start with Michael Taylor. I think we got to start there. Early this year, I know Judo was tweeting with me during the game. We talked about his strikeouts. might have said Michael K. Taylor, but he has been the turnaround that he's had this year has been remarkable. Because you look at the way he's defended, insanely good in center field. I was looking up this before the game. He's at -7 defensive run, not -7, excuse me, 7 defensive run saved this year, which leads the Nationals, and they're -4 collectively in the outfield. So it shows you where they would be without Michael Taylor. He makes a big play in the 7th inning to get, it was Nick Williams at the plate, another good young Phillies player. But the star of the night was his offense. He goes 4 for 5. Drives in a career-high 5 RBIs, and, of course, the one everybody's going to be talking about, the inside-the-park grand slam in the 3rd inning that gave the Nats a 6-3 lead. He hits the ball to center field, bases loaded, and for some reason, I don't know why Odubel Herrera is trying to jump for the ball in the middle of center field, but it goes past his glove to the wall. Herrera doesn't even hustle for it, and Taylor gets it inside-the-park grand slam. It happened 2 years ago when Taylor misplayed it and Aaron Altair got an inside-the-park grand slam. I believe that was the same series where the Papelbon-Harper fight showed up. Amazing how things can change in 2 years, does it? That's 15 home runs for Taylor now. He's up to 45 RBIs, and he's starting to find his swing again. That's a great sign for this offense because when he's bringing depth to the bottom of the order, he's stealing bases, he's doing everything, getting infield hits, triples down the left field line. It's fun to watch him play. And I know Drew talked about it last night. I think he's locked up center field next year. You can't lose your spot normally to injury, but Adam Eaton, I think, is going to move to the corner because Eaton's been that good. I mean, Taylor's been that good in center field. Plain and simple. It's amazing to watch this guy play when he's this good. As for Trea Turner, I think he deserves some recognition as well. He goes 3 for 4, 2 runs scored, 3 RBIs, a walk, and it was a triple shy of his 2nd cycle, but he's now up to 8 home runs this season, a 2-run shot in the 6th. And I like the way the Nationals fought back in this game. They were down 3-0 early. Nick Williams hits a 3-run homer. Scherzer walks 3 in the 1st inning, which you rarely ever see that. I mean, that just kept chipping away. They didn't get everything back in 1 inning except the 3rd, but the Nats get a couple of base hits from Kendrick and Murphy in the 1st. Zimmerman drives Kendrick in to get him on the board. Turner has the bloop base hit in the 2nd to add another run. And then, of course, the big 4-run 3rd inning, aided by the Phillies. You got an error by Hernandez after the walk by Murphy. Then Hoskins makes an error, so they can't put in double play. Rendon gets the runners over. Wieters works a walk, and then Taylor comes up with the big hit to get the 6 runs on the board. They tack on another run in the 4th on a Murphy double play. Turner had a double in that inning off the wall. Then I think Herrera bobbled the play. It try to leap and grab on Murphy, and it didn't work. It was just a bad night for Herrera. And then you guys saw this in the 6th inning. He tries to call time and strikes out looking. And I'm kind of surprised when you look at the Phillies. I know Herrera's got a lot of talent. I know he's got a 21-game hitting streak. But Pete McCann should bench him more. He flips the bat whenever on anything. He does a lot of crazy things in the field, and they gave him a lot of money. All things considering, he's one of the only players locked up under their control past next year. So they're putting their future on him, and I think for his good numbers, he drives you crazy a lot, I think, if you're a Phillies fan. We got here Jay Lewis is worth off the bench if he resigns. I don't think he will resign. I know Drew's mentioned it. I kind of agree with him. I think he's going to go to the American League. But obviously, I think if you bring Worth back, then, yeah, you're bringing back in like a platoon situation in left field. Seth says that's why the NL needs a DH. When you talk about pitcher, Jay Lewis says, frankly, I'm sick of pitchers killing good innings. I'm come from the American League side, so I actually like the DH. I know the Nats have really good hitting pitchers. Scherzer does a nice job at the plate. Strasburg has a couple home runs this year. Gio's usually good at the plate. But I think it makes it a little bit tougher for the pitcher to navigate through a lineup. So I think adding a DH in the NL would actually add more offense. So if you're talking about adding more runs and getting more interest back, putting the DH in both leagues I think works. But that's a different opinion. We can get into that in a different day. But I see Seth calls Odubel Herrera the hitter version of Jonathan Papelbon. Not exactly good memories if you're a Nats fan and Jonathan Papelbon in the same sentence. But I digress from that. But looking at Scherzer tonight, again, rough first inning, but he's able to get through it pretty easily. 97 miles an hour on the fastball, had the slider working at one point. He did give up a double to J.P. Crawford in the sixth. But really, besides that, I think all in all, considering he gets through this game healthy, he gives you 104 pitches, 71 strikes. So a good number there. Probably the perfect amount for Scherzer anyway. You absolutely sign up for that. I don't think at this point you're expecting him to go out there and give you 8 innings, 2 runs, especially coming off of taking that line drive against Milwaukee. You just want him to get healthy. I mean, again, for Scherzer, it counts a month from now. I know people are talking about the Cy Young Award with him, and he's definitely in the conversation. I was listening, though, to John Morosi today. I know he was on MLB Central, whether it was yesterday or today. And he was talking about if Gio Gonzalez gets to 200 innings, which is a good chance. He's about 20 innings shy right now. He's one of the favorites for Cy Young, which is amazing how he can have Gio and Scherzer within the top 3 or 4 in the Cy Young voting. They've both been that good this year. And if Gio continues to dominate, he's got a real good chance. But I do like what Scherzer's done. ERA now at 2.32. I think he's a strikeout shy of 240 for the year. Been another great year for the Nats ace, no question about it. Howie Kendrick had a pair of hits today. Daniel Murphy a pair of hits and a walk. Zimmerman a pair of hits and 2 RBIs. He's up to 95. Rendon had a double. I think every offensive player had a hit but Alejandro De Aza. And that's what it comes down to. If with Harper out, Wirtz got the shoulder injury, shoulder tightness, Goodwin's got the groin, you're really out of depth in the outfield because Andrew Stevenson, he did get a hit tonight in a pinch hit role, but he's not had good numbers at the plate. Rafael Bautista hasn't played a lot of games. I know the name you guys will bring up is Victor Robles, but I don't think Robles is going to play a lot until this team clinches just to get the experience, and I don't think he's making the postseason roster. So I rang about this for tomorrow. If Wirth has to miss time and Harper does miss the first round, the Nats really have to just focus on defense with that last outfield spot in the playoffs because they need a defensive replacement for Lind or Kendrick. Because you don't want that as well. Both those guys have not exactly been terrible defensively. I think you want a reliable defender off the bench or a pinch runner. And both those guys, I think Stevenson fits the bill there. Bautista. De Aza, I know he's the veteran and he does some good things, but he's hitting about 160. I'm not really a fan of putting a guy hitting 160 on the postseason roster, although Jose Lobaton might be there for all said and done. If Severino gets more playing time and contributes, I'd like to see him get an opportunity because we saw what he did last year, how good he was. We mentioned Perez already. I thought Albers gave up a hit, but all things considering, gets out of that inning, giving only up 3 runs in the 7th. And then Kinsler and Doolittle did the job with Sean Kelly screwing up in between. I want to talk about the Phillies a little bit here. I'll say this much. They've given the Nats a lot of competitive games this year. And you look at their position players, Hoskins, with all the home runs he's hit. Nick Williams had 4 hits tonight in right field. If Maikel Franco could figure it out at third base, they got Alfaro, a catcher. J.P. Crawford, who can play multiple positions. He had a pair of hits. They got Scott Kingery coming up in AAA, Dylan Cozens in AAA. Their position players have a lot of potential. So they can give the Nats fits for a couple of years, at least at the bottom of the division. Their pitching they need to get right before they can be a contender again. That's going to be a problem. Let's look at the chat here before we get into the situation. Yeah, Seth, it was yesterday, so thanks for that. And we have Larry Jacobs says, why does Sean Kelly always give up home runs? Good thing the Nats have Doolittle. Welcome back, Larry. Yeah, it's been a rough year for him, as we mentioned earlier. He's leaving a lot of pitches up in the zone. The fastball's not working. And it's odd because this time last year, Sean Kelly was one of the best pitchers in the bullpen. And he only got used once in that NLDS up until Game 5. So it's amazing. I guess it's the life of a reliever sometimes. One year you're really good, and one year you're not so good. Maybe now you're kind of thinking maybe we shouldn't have given that third year to Sean Kelly after all. Seth brings up a good point, 35-18 since the All-Star break. And he says start Robles over De Aza. And Judo said we have a legitimate chance of 95-plus wins, and we're discussing whether we should put a guy batting 171 in the playoff roster. That's a good point. But that also speaks, Judo and guys, to how many injuries this team has had. I mean, that's where you're looking at outfield depth right now. they've used 13 different outfielders, and when Robles eventually gets in the game in the field, it's going to be 14. See, you rarely see the team this good at 87 wins that's used 14 different outfielders. It's a testament to how the depth is and how the depth has been and how Dusty has done. Seth says, quick question, where is Clint Robinson? He is in AAA. Their season just ended. Robinson was second in AAA in RBIs behind Brandon Snyder. The problem is, and I mentioned this when I wrote about Snyder, the Nats haven't needed first base depth this year, which is a good surprise. Ryan Zimmerman has been healthy most of the season, hasn't had to go on the DL. Adam Lynn has done a nice job filling in for Zimmerman when he needs a day off. So without injuries at first base, there's really no need for Clint Robinson. So he went through the whole year in the minors, but did a really good job, as Bob and FP were talking about on the broadcast. So sorry, there's no need for Clint Robinson, but he's done a nice job. Yep, Trey and Taylor, 16 combined bases, as Judo points out. And it's not that I would looking at the whole Robles thing, and I wasn't here yesterday, but I'm glad he's up in the big leagues and getting that opportunity. I didn't think he would, so I was pleasantly surprised. But I'm not expecting him to play that much. I like what Dusty said yesterday, that it's really about a learning experience for him. It's getting him used to the big league experience. They'll get him some at-bats. They'll get him some pinch running situations. And this is a good teaching tool for the Arizona Fall League next month, where he's going to be featured and playing a lot for Mesa, which is the Nats AFL team that will be a part of a bunch of other teams. He's going to play winter ball in the Dominican Republic. He's going to get a chance in Major League spring training. I don't think Victor Robles is going to be a big impact on this year's team. Next year's team, we can have that conversation. Maybe in the middle of next year. I'm not quite there yet. As great as Robles is, the speed is there. He's done a nice job, at least in the minors. I mean, I'm impressed at what he's done at AA Harrisburg. I mean, when he was hitting over 320 there as a 20-year-old. Keep in mind, he was one of the youngest players in that league, and he's the youngest player in baseball right now. And that's a testament of how he's done. Chelsea James tweeted this. I know, Jay, you put this in the chat on Dusty and Sean Kelly. Dusty said he used him because he saw an opportunity to let him get his confidence back. And Dusty said, Kelly is struggling. I'm sure he's tearing out that pretty hair of his, trying to figure it out. I know during the year I was doing, at least first couple of months, like Dusty Baker quotes of the month. I think that would win one of the quotes of the month. But it's something I've talked about, especially early in the season. Part of the bullpen struggles was confidence. I mean, you look at defense, for example. When you see the second baseman make an error like FP pointed out, then the first baseman's afraid of making an error, or the third baseman's afraid of making an error. You kind of get that with relievers. When you see everybody screwing up around you, you wonder if that's going to affect you. And I think really a lack of confidence for Sean Kelly has been bad for him this year. And Joe Blanton had those problems, but it seems like he's righted the ship. Albert Perez, as I said, outside of tonight's done a nice job. Eddie Romero is back, and hopefully the Nats will use him more. Expanded roster should need you use setup guys more. Guys like Sammy Solis, who have been, for the most part, good since he's come back. It shouldn't have to be using Kinsler, Madsen, and Doolittle every game, because those guys need a month from now. And hopefully when the Nats clinch this thing, Doolittle gets a couple of games off, because 4 times in 5 days is way too much. Especially for a guy who's had a lot of injuries in his career. You do not want to get him hurt. It's the last guy that can afford to. So right now the magic number is at 3. Miami did beat Atlanta tonight 7-1. So you're not getting a clinching thing till Sunday. And I'll say this right now here on the air for you guys. When the Nats do clinch, you're going to either get 2 of us on the DoDcast or all of us, depending, Ron, Drew, and myself, depending on who's available. We usually, for big shows, like to have multiple District on Deck people on the show. So usually, like you guys see one night, like tonight's just me. When the Nats do clinch, we'll try to get everybody here, and we'll have one big Nats chat party here talking about the clinching moments. So keep that in mind as the clinching situations get a little bit closer. But Miami did get the win 7-1. You look at their numbers tonight. Derek Dietrich had a home run, but really was Miguel Rojas had a couple RBIs and a good game for Jose Urena. 6 1/3, 1 run, 3 hits, struck out 5, and walked 3. He got his 13th win of the year. He's 13-6 for the Marlins. Also around the division, the Mets beat the Reds 5-1. Seth Lugo got the win, 6 shutout innings, 4 hits, 4 strikeouts, 1 walk. Travis Tyrone with his first major league home run, and Jose Reyes a pair of home runs as well off of Amir Garrett. So the Mets get a couple of wins against Cincinnati. Also, the Cleveland Indians, they win their 16th straight game, 5-0. Clevenger gets the win, 7 strikeouts over 6 innings. To me, Cleveland's the favorite in the American League because you got Encarnacion, you got Jay Bruce, you have the good offense, the pitching with Kluber and Carrasco and Salazar is really good. They'll get Andrew Miller back. People forget they're winning 16 in a row, and Andrew Miller is not healthy. Francona, as Ron can attest to, one of the best managers in the league, if not the best manager in the league. So the Indians just on a roll right now. They're going to win the Central going away. Give me a little home field update. Remember, the Nats come into tonight only 6 games behind the Dodgers for home field, and they have a 3-game set next weekend at home against LA. Right now, the Dodgers are up 4-1 in the third. LA had a 4-run first inning. Justin Turner, a 2-run shot in the first, his 19th of the season. So LA trying to somewhat right themselves. They've been really bad over the last couple of weeks. Meanwhile, the Diamondbacks, who had a 13-game winning streak heading into tonight, well, that's in jeopardy. They're down 6-0 to the Padres, that game going into the 5th. Milwaukee up 2-0 on the Cubs. The Cubs are down to their last out, and that's a big win for Milwaukee if they can get it. They come into tonight 5 back behind the Cubs, 3-game series. So basically, if Chicago takes 2 out of 3, you're probably looking at Nats Cubs in the first round. So keep that in mind as Milwaukee gets the win. St. Louis, who's also 5 back, they're up 4-1 on the Pirates in the 8th. So a chance for St. Louis and Milwaukee to gain a game on the Cubs tonight. You got Angels down 3-2 to the Mariners in the 3rd. Astros and A's are 2-2 in the 3rd. Twins, who have been doing really good themselves, 8-5 in the 8th over Kansas City. And the Giants 6-2 over the White Sox in the 9th. Crazy things happened in that game. For one, Buster Posey stole home, and Lucas Giolito gave up a home run to a previously 0-for-39 Pablo Sandoval. Crazy performances there in Chicago. Oh, and by the way, the Yankees are losing 8-5 to Texas. That game in the 7th. They did have to move those Yankees-Rays games to Citi Field starting on Monday because of Hurricane Irma. And, of course, our thoughts and prayers with all those people that are being affected, or will hopefully the damage will go away, but it's not looking great for the people in Florida and the surrounding states right now. So, again, I said that a couple nights ago, but the tracks are getting worse, but we'll keep those people in our thoughts and prayers as the days get closer to that. Looking at anything else around the Nats today, as mentioned, Taylor was great today. Trea Turner was great today. And I love the way this offense, really with all the injuries they've had, they can still have 11-run nights like this. And you kind of forget that because in August they had a lot of weird games. They're winning games like 3-2. They struggled with men scoring position. Tonight they hit was 6 for 19. Got a lot of chances with men scoring position. They left 5 on them with 2 outs, but they just keep the line moving. And again, when Taylor's hitting the ball well, Matt Weirs, who's been a really good defensive catcher in terms of fielding balls to home plate, I think that's been a good asset for the Nats this year, at least defensively. When you have all those guys at the bottom of the order helping out, just adds to the strength of this lineup. But eventually Jason Worth will come back and bounce back. You add him into the mix. Obviously, Bryce Harper will get added to the mix, and he doesn't have the cornrows anymore, which, again, I mentioned it the other day. I don't care if he's got the cornrows. Do what you want. It's your hair. It's not a big deal. Let me just see if I can go into a couple of things here. A lot of people here in the chat tonight, so I'll try to get to everybody. Seth says we should have a chat party if the Nats win the World Series. Again, if it gets to that point, yeah, everybody, I'm sure, will be here for playoff games. I don't know if we're going to have everybody here after games, but again, at least maybe 1, 2, or all of us. We're going to obviously bring you some DoDcast during the playoffs. What else we got here? Larry says, Kinsler, another good job. I wonder if he would come back next season if the Nats wanted him back. And that's going to be a big thing for Kinsler because I think he's going to be in high demand. You have Wade Davis on the free agent market next year, a couple other relievers. I actually wrote on this, Larry, a couple weeks ago. When Kinsler gets into games, teams usually win. And Minnesota had a great record when he was pitching in games for them. If Kinsler doesn't get a high demand, I think the Nats could obviously make a deal for him. If he gets to 30 saves and Dusty maybe does that down the stretch, maybe that helps in the Nats' favor as well. think he's a few saves shy of that. So there is a chance once they clinch, maybe Dusty tries to get him some saves. Gio says, remember when we were saying, imagine how good this team won't be once they all come back? Well, they're back, and tonight we saw the results. Definitely, I think what I mentioned that earlier. Seth says, why not Yankee Stadium? I think, Seth, they tried to make it to where it was somewhat neutral. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of Yankee fans at Citi Field for those 3 games. I saw you can buy field level seats for like $25. So the Yankees, I think, catch an advantage too because they don't really have to go on a lot of road games. So that's the thing to talk. I think they made an okay decision on that. I don't think you're going to get much more neutral because Tampa Bay also is on the road. They're in Boston tonight, and they are actually losing, or they did lose 9-3. So they go from Boston to New York. Isn't that long of a trip either. I think that maybe played a factor. Judo, I talked about Apple Watchgate. No, I think Chris Sale's deflating baseballs. Needs 2 saves for 30. Thanks, Jay. Seth says the Nats win the World Series. You have a chat and host me up at the parade. That's prob for Drew's nearby, but Ron's in Vermont and I'm in New York, so not going to be a easy meetup, but who knows? But we'll get to that when the time comes, hopefully. Jay, I know Matt Wieters definitely has had a bad year offensively. I'm not saying that his year has been fantastic by any means. He does get a lot of runners and quits with runners in scoring position. At least he does that. And like I said before, he fields the ball well at the plate, especially on Michael Taylor's throw to the plate. He did an excellent job with that. I don't think it's been a great year, but I think if it comes back next year at the option, I think he'll do much better. I got a question here on Twitter from RK Jr., who comments me on Twitter all the time, so thank you for him. No, it's not. I know my initials are the same, but I have no relation to this person. Is Solis even going to be on the postseason roster? Tonight seemed like a great chance to use him, but didn't. I believe Solis will be. I think Dusty used them all 5 games last year in the playoffs. I think they do trust Sammy Solis. The guys I think are on the bubble for the playoff roster are Kelly, which I don't think he's going to make it. Blanton, Romero. Probably between those 3 guys. I mean, it begs the question, because I think you bring up a good point on Solis. I feel like he warms up a lot and doesn't get into these games. Like, Solis pitched August 28th, September 1st, and September 5th. He did it back-to-back in the Mets series, but his appearances in the second half have not been as frequent as you saw, let's say, last year. That is a good question. I just think Solis' spot is safe. I think he will make this team in the postseason based off the track record from last year. And I think when he's gotten in, he's had a couple of bad games, but all in all, he's been fairly reliable. As a pitcher, you can use him against lefties and against righties. I think that plays in his favor. The rest of the bullpen, I think it's going to come down to matchups. Depending on if you have a lot of lefties, a lot of righties, I think they'll make the decisions that way. Jay asks, how many relievers can they carry on the postseason roster? I mean, you're looking likely, Jay, at a 4-man bench. Let's say Harper's healthy, and let's say Worth is healthy. You're probably looking at Adam Lind, Howie Kendrick, Wilmer Defoe, and whoever the catcher is. So either Jose Lobaton or Pedro Severino. So you're looking at remember, you only allowed 25 guys on the roster. So when you have Kenzo's going to make it, Madsen's going to make it, Doolittle's going to make it, Albers is going to make it. You have the 4 starters. So let's Max, Steven, Gio, Tanner. That's 8 right there. You're probably looking at maybe 2 or 3 more guys. But it also depends, like, if you want to carry an extra hitter on the roster, if you want to stack more lefties. You saw the Nats do that last year against the Dodgers. Those factors are going to come into play as well. And that's where I think you're going to have guys like Blanton, Romero are going to be pitching for bullpen spots. But healthy competition is always good. Okay, so pitchers, yeah, basically you got the 4 starters and how many pitchers you put in out of the bullpen. You also have to include Edwin Jackson too, so maybe that also limits the amount of bullpen spots because Jackson, I think, is we'll get into him. He starts tomorrow. If he pitches well over the final month, he's going to get himself in a position to where he's going to be that emergency long man. If one of the stars gets into trouble and you want to prevent the game from getting out of hand, then you bring in Jackson for that. So that's where his performance could also affect how many pitchers you take. So a lot of factors are going to tie into those Dusty Baker bullpen moves down the stretch. So let's take a look at who's pitching tomorrow. I'm going to be back with you guys tomorrow night, so you get 2 games with me this week. It's a 7:05 Eastern first pitch, and catch a game on Masson in Washington. CSN Philadelphia will have the game as well. It's Mark Leiter Jr. on the mound for the Phillies, 2-5 with a 4.74 ERA against Edwin Jackson for the Nats. Jackson 5-4 with a 3.62. And it seems like Edwin Jackson does well when he doesn't have to face the Brewers. So also going back to that playoff thing, if the Nats play Milwaukee, maybe you don't put Edwin Jackson on the roster. But Jackson last time out, 5 2/3, 4 earned runs, 5 hits, a couple home runs. He struck out 5. But all in all, Jackson's been a pleasant surprise. He doesn't usually put together 2 bad starts in a row. Actually, he really hasn't put together 2 bad starts in a row. So there's no reason to expect Edwin Jackson is not going to have a consistent outing tomorrow. Hopefully gives you 6 innings. I would say 3-4 runs. You'd sign up for that easily. Some of the numbers for the Phillies against Jackson, well, not a lot of people have numbers. Herrera's got a walk. Cesar Hernandez is 0-for-1. And Freddie Galvis is 1-for-4. As for the Phillies, again, they're going to throw Mark Leiter. A lot of names you're not going to recognize in the Phillies with the whole rebuilding plan they're doing. This will be Leiter's 24th Major League game, his 8th start. Last time against the Mets, he was awful. 8 earned runs, 9 hits, 3 1/3, struck out 2, gave a couple of home runs. Leiter has given up a total of 15 runs over his last 4 starts. He's given up 12 home runs this year, has walked 25 and 68 1/3 innings. So this is a game where if the Nats can maybe get to him early, you take away that confidence. Nobody has more than 1 at bat against him. Daniel Murphy has the only hit, but it's not as if nobody in this offense has seen him before. He's 26 years old, right-hander from Fort Lauderdale. So if the Nats can sort of get to him early, get a couple of runs, don't give him that confidence, or the second time around. I like the way the offense has performed on this 5-game winning streak. I think they've definitely bounced back from that rough series in Milwaukee, and they have a chance to sweep this series. You don't go in expecting sweep for the Phillies are that bad. This is one of those I think you can expect it. Depends who's pitching Sunday. Right now it's still between, I think, A.J. Cole and Steven Strasburg, depending on if they want to give Strasburg that extra day of rest. That could also maybe factor in if the Nats maybe go with Strasburg if they have a chance to clinch on Sunday. Maybe that plays a factor as well. I would rather give Strauss the extra day. I think using the 6-man rotation isn't a bad idea. I love the quote by Michael Taylor. Chelsea Janes had this on his Inside the Park Grand Slam. It feels better to be on this side of it. And definitely, he had another one against the Mets a couple years ago, but it was ruled an error. So it would have been 2 if that was ruled a home run, but it was not. But always good when you could see it inside the park Grand Slam on a given night. So Jackson gets Leiter tomorrow. And also Ben Lively, I believe, is pitching for the Phillies on Sunday. Let's dive into the chat here a little bit. I'm looking here at the Jays thing. Max, Strauss, Gio, Rourke, Jackson, the law firm, and Albers. I do think Solis goes in, and I agree too on Judo. I like Oliver Perez to make the roster. I mean, right before tonight, lefties are hitting 203 against him this year. And again, 154 batting average against before tonight. So I would really take this start and kind of take this appearance and put it in a vacuum. I think Perez, for the most part, has been a pleasant surprise. I love the Matador music, by the way, with 2 strikes. And I'm coming from New York. Remember watching all the disappointment they have at the Mets. And I've been pleasantly surprised with how good he's been. So I wouldn't take Solis or Perez out of the conversation. So really, when you look at the Nats' tough bullpen decisions, it might come from their left-handers between Solis, Perez, Romero, and Joe Blanton is starting to become a little bit more consistent, which will help his postseason roster candidacy. So we'll tell you what we have up on the site today. A lot of things on the site today. I did that piece when we talked about in the chat on Wednesday I finally wrote it up for you guys, making the case for who should pitch Game 2 of the NLDS between Steven Strasburg and Gio Gonzalez. Ron wrote a nice slideshow. He's been here a year and has learned a lot. So Ron shares with you what he's learned throughout his 1 year, and I'm happy Ron's here. And I think we formed a great team. I'm excited to cover a second postseason with him. Last year was kind of on the fly because Ron's covering playoff games with me a month into learning about the Nationals. So he's done a fantastic job. Our whole team has done great. So I'm happy to be a partner with Ron, and we'll see what happens. You can read what he wrote in his personal year of lessons. And Drew says, too early to panic about Jason Worth. Good article by Drew. I've got an article coming out tomorrow about that whole outfield depth situation. Hopefully you don't see Wilmer Difo play the outfield in the playoffs. I think that would be a bad idea. Seth, all of us, all you guys here in the chat room are part of our team, so we're happy that you guys are here. Judah, I am loving your comments. I'm not. They are bringing good laughs to me too, so I am checking them out. Jay says, "How are you? A Nats fan living in New York? I'm a Giants fan living in Virginia. I see Larry's a Cowboys fan, so I'm sure you guys will have different interests on Sunday night. I'm sure." Jay, to answer this, I know you're fairly new. I'm not a Nats fan. I write about the Nats. We have the District on Deck Bowl where Ron's a Red Sox fan. I'm a Yankees fan, actually. And I'm a Pats fan. So it's actually two different teams for me. I kind of can't go to Boston about half the year. But I've been covering this team since 2015 for Fansided. So it's my third year here. And just because I'm not a fan, that's why I learned from you guys, the fans. Want to get your opinion always, all the time. So I try to bring I try to be as fair as possible. That's what we do here. Ron and I aren't fans. Drew's the only fan out of the three of us. But we'll try to do the best we can and be fair, and we take your opinions as well. So we try to tell as much as we can as it is. But I do, Judo, keep the comments coming. I do love the comments. I'm trying. It's great that we have all these comments here. I'm definitely appreciating it. So again, we got 3 articles up on the site. Check those out. Should have 2 tomorrow. I had the Victor Robles article up yesterday, and again, I'm excited to see him play. He's going to be a part of this team's future. And the rise that he's had, remember, he's only 20. You got Juan Soto in the minors, who a lot of people say he's better than Victor Robles in low A and had a rough injury-plagued year, but he's a guy to watch in the minors. I'm excited. I've been writing about the minors for District on Deck for the most part this year. And I think this team has a lot of good prospects coming up, even though they dealt some of them away at the deadline, but not the big ones. So Robles is the guy I'm happy they kept around. Chase says that's tough being a Yankee and Patriot fan. Well, I would say having 5 Super Bowls and at least a couple of world championships in the Yankees doesn't make it as tough. But I get that a lot. Believe me, I get a lot of stares in New York when I tell them I'm a fan of both. I even got when I went to Boston one time. I got the same thing. So I hope you guys definitely enjoy the football on Sunday. I enjoyed watching last night for part of the game, of course. But it's a good time when baseball and football are kind of together, of course. So again, the Nats get the win 11-10. It was not easy, but they found a way to get the win. Should have been a lot more lopsided, and hopefully Dusty keeps that in mind. That's the one thing I worry about with Dusty is how he uses the starters and how he uses the relievers. Especially when I think you got to try to take the stars down a little bit. And that's why I think using A.J. Cole Sunday wouldn't be a bad idea, and using Steven Strasburg on Tuesday. And no, I'm just not saying that because Ron is doing Sunday's game. I'd rather catch up on Tim in the wins column. By the way, tonight's my 40th win on a DoDcast this year. So Ron's up to 42 wins. I'm up to 40 wins. Our games are not as even because Ron has done more games than me, so our winning percentages are different. I will try to get you guys the updated winning percentages tomorrow. I've been trying to do this all year. We do this just for fun, where we track, okay, who's done the most wins, who's the people we want to tweak games during the playoffs, because that might lead to a win. But overall, both of us have done a nice job. And Drew, in 19 games, is 12-7. So he's done a nice job as well in the times we've had him do DoDcasts too. But I think it's definitely been a lot of fun to do these shows, and especially fun when you guys have chat. You guys should have a race to 100. We're not going to get to that point, sadly. Especially because nobody's going to win 100 games, and we don't do the. There's usually some of us do a couple. Nobody does more than usually 3-4 games at a time in a row. But we'll try to do as many as we can. Of course, we did. For the record, we did not count Monday. I tweeted the last 3 innings Monday night, but we did not count that because we weren't here on the DoDcast. So you have to do the game and the DoDcast to get credit for the win. It's my rules. I made it up, but it's been a lot of fun to track just for fun how we do records-wise. So I'm back with you guys tomorrow, and then Ron will be with you Sunday. Then we have a day off on Monday before the Braves series. RK Jr. asks, do I give Ron some grief for the whole sign-stealing thing since I'm a Yankees fan? No, I don't. I throw a couple Apple Watch jokes in there, but really besides that, I think we get along well. Red Sox Yankees fan thinks, who says you can't keep your enemies closer? But we're great friends too. So again, thank you guys all for contributing in the chat room. We definitely appreciate it. Got to wrap it up though. Feel free to leave this video a like and subscribe here on the page. You can also tweet us on Twitter at District on Deck, at Rooknator555. Give us a like on Facebook. We have all of our DoDcasts there, all of our articles there. Try to post some cool videos too. I think I'm going to try to go to MLB.com and put up Taylor Inside the Park Grand Slams because I love watching it so much. We'll put that on the site as well. But again, thank you guys all for contributing in the chat room. I really do appreciate all the comments. And all the stuff that we got this year. Yeah, so we call it a race to 50, definitely. So for all of us here at District on Deck, I'm Ricky Keeler saying I hope you guys have a great night. And I'll see you back here tomorrow night for Edwin Jackson against Mark Leiter Jr. as the Nats try to lessen the magic number to clinch the NL East.